everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of How to Speak Maintenance. My name is Jason Fine. I'm the Vice President of Maintenance at Dominion Properties. And with us today, Becca is actually on vacation. So, Becca, if you're watching, I hope you're having a great time. And with us, we have Sarah Chesbro, who's the Vice President of Marketing for TAA. So, welcome, Sarah.
Hello.
So today, I wanted to bring a guest on to share thoughts on environmental sustainability and how maintenance has been a part in any successful program. With us is Jake Reed, who is the Vice President of Building Services with Amley Residential. So welcome, Jake.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. It's good stuff.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to come join us. So do you mind talking about yourself and your position at Amley a little bit so our listeners
Sure.
can get to know
Yeah.
you?
Well, yeah. I am Vice President of Building Services over here. I've been at Amley for about 7 years now. I started my career in maintenance back in my early 20s, working as a facilities manager at a hospital, which was interesting. But then took a hiatus from maintenance in a way. I went to be a mechanical contractor for another 20 years after that, and then burned out on that stuff and decided to jump back to property maintenance. So it's been quite an adventure, kind of a late change in life, getting back to maintenance, but it's been fantastic. As far as my position at Amley, obviously I work in building services, but I also have roles as kind of an internal consultant for mechanical and electrical and plumbing systems when it comes to new development. So I do plan review and work with construction development pretty heavily. And I also do a lot of work with someone named Aaron Hatcher over here, who is our VP of Sustainability. Just kind of helping out with energy metrics and just the things that she's dabbling in that needs a little more building expertise. So a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, you definitely have a great opportunity to impact sustainability within Amley and be able to bring new ideas to the table, especially with your involvement with both the sustainability and with the new development team. That's
Correct.
great.
No, it's a great platform to see it all kind of start to finish. Certainly.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you will bring a lot of information and insight into our conversation today. So thanks for joining us again.
Sure.
Well, let's get into it with all of the focus that we have on climate and environmental sustainability and now there's new acronyms out there, right? Just what we need is more acronyms, ESG and LEED and this and that. So, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about Amley's history with environmental sustainability, especially when it comes to building
Sure.
and maintenance practices and procedures.
Yeah. Well, Amway started in 1980, and just kind of a little backstory here. On our first development, I'm told I wasn't here, of course, I was probably in high school at the time, but first development we had, our CEO, our chairman of the board, and one of our founders, Greg Mutz, was developing this brand new site, had people out grading the site and all that, but there were some monster trees out there that he just really, really wanted to, preserve for the development, which I think at the time was not, really, really out there to say, hey, we're going to save these massive trees, because the graders just wanted to come in and just rip stuff down. So he put up fences around these things, and it's kind of legend around Amway that he really had to have some harsh words and harsh meetings with these grading contractors who got too close to his trees. Now, I guess Greg is one of the first tree huggers out there. It's not all what sustainability is about, but it's also it just shows it's a part of the DNA of Amley. I mean, it's just the way we started that that environmental sustainability. Even though it wasn't called that back then, it was, he didn't know he was probably even doing that. But, it's just, that was the foundational, thing for, how this all started, really. And from there on, it's always been a part of kind of what we do. We got a pretty great opportunity to kind of up our game that in 2006, the LEED program started, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And 2006 it started. In 2008, Amley made said that any new development that we were building was going to be LEED certified, silver or higher. There's silver, gold, and platinum. But we said from now on, it's just going to be like this. And so from that day forward, we, people got LEED certified, which was a new thing. And kind of learned the program, and then everything that was developed past then has incorporated all those LEED aspects into the design and construction of the buildings. We also started with, in 2014, I think Energy Star said that they would start certifying multifamily buildings, and 2014 we started registering our buildings for those certifications, and right now I think we have 47 buildings that are Energy Star certified, and I think, let me look, it's 53 buildings that are LEED certified at this point. So yeah, so I mean, it's just a big part of what we do. I mean, it is Amway's philosophy. It's not something that we I mean, we certainly concentrate on it, in a cognitive way, but it's just what we do at this point. It's been around so long that it's not something that's new to us, and it's just part of Amway. So, great thing. But I mean, going into a little bit of what those, especially LEED, how that affects maintenance to some extent. Once that building is built, all sorts of things are baked into that building that are, LEED standards. But there's all sorts of stuff that has to be maintained through the life cycle of that building that we're also, part of LEED. But we're talking things like fresh air ventilation for the apartments, where we're bringing in dedicated fresh air to each of those places. MERV 8 filters for all the air handlers within those apartments. And those MERV 8 filters, I think a lot of companies change once, twice a year on filters, 4 times a year for us on those, just because they're a higher efficiency filter. Kitchen and bath fans that are dedicated and go outside. High efficiency heating and cooling equipment. We have water conservation measures with the fixtures we use that are all this stuff just adds a little touch of complication to what the maintenance guys have to do. Energy Star certified appliances, recycling programs. Another big one, low VOC chemicals. I mean, it's what we're which VOC, volatile organic compounds, which aren't necessarily good for people to have in that indoor environment, but going after products that are cleaning products, carpet products, finishes like paints that are low VOC. Those are all put into the building at that start. But it's our job as maintenance guys to make sure that we maintain those standards all along. It's easy to go out and buy a non-low VOC paint. No one's going to know probably, but we know. So we really do try to maintain those standards throughout the life cycle of the building.
That's great. I'm glad you hit on the pieces of as far as what makes a building LEED certified. For those listeners out there that might not know, I mean, it takes a lot, and there's a lot of scrutinizing as far as energy consumption and water consumption, lighting in the building. So, a lot of LED is installed, and a lot of dimmer systems to be able to make sure that during the busiest part of the day, when we have a lot of natural light, we're not consuming a lot of electricity. So.
Sure, really and you bring up a good point there. As I said, a lot of those LEED standards are, that's a building and design process. So it's not necessarily, you wouldn't think of those as maintenance processes, but then maintaining those on the backside. But LEED definitely concentrates more on how the building is built and how the building. I mean, all this stuff everyone mentions, the bike racks. You have to have a bike rack if you're LEED certified. Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff. But it's just being close to public transportation. I mean, there's all sorts of air sealing for the building. That's not stuff you're doing afterwards, but making that building as energy efficient as you can. And that's the cool thing about Energy Star, is that Energy Star really does directly impact maintenance a lot more, because we're doing a year-over-year metric and comparison of how much energy that building is using. So that matters to maintenance guys. It really does, because I promise you, the minute that energy spikes, 1 year or 1 month or something like that, they all look at us to go, hey, what happened? It certainly wasn't someone, plugging an extra toaster. It's usually a chiller or a boiler, something big that's out there doing something bad. So we've got to figure it out. But that's really my favorite aspect of the green stuff is Energy Star, because it's a lot of fun to play with.
And it's also the building envelope, right? And the R rating on the insulation. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, there's all of that comes into play, but that's all preoccupation. But yes, I mean, it's our construction teams are really held to the beat of the fire on making. I mean, it probably adds more layers of I'm not going to call it hassle, but hassle to the construction process. But we build better buildings by doing it. It's what everybody's striving to do anyway. So LEED just kind of gives us that platform to be able to prove it that this is what we've done. So great program.
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember.
oh yeah.
I remember back in the day that LEED, the LEED certifications, that wasn't the norm, So from an on-site perspective, that was a huge selling point. And, especially in some of the larger markets, I sit here in Austin, Texas. And as you can imagine, all of those things were really, really important back then. And so it was important for us to convey those to our residents in the tour path and, pointing out the amenities, making sure all of our ILS, our internet listing sites had those listed as benefits, and it was on our website and all of the things, right? So that's another aspect that I think that we have to check off the list is if we're doing all of these things, let's make sure that our prospective, residents know that as well, because that may be something that is really important to them. And that may be why they choose an AMLI over another company because of that philosophy.
Well, I mean, it's super funny you say that, because I was going to bring up, we do every couple of years, we actually survey our residents. And a lot of that focus is about sustainability and how important it is to them. And I've got a metric here that says that on the last one we did, I think it was last year, 45% of residents said that green features impacted their decision to rent an AMLI. And then the bigger one is that 78% of residents said that they thought that those green features were better for their health. So, this is in people's minds, I think, more than we think it is. As the people who want to live in better buildings, they're going to gravitate toward people who have better buildings. So, it's a bit, it's a huge deal to people, and not just in Austin. I think there's just a large contingent. Certainly younger people are much more into, I'd say older people are not, but are very into green practices. I think it's front of mind. I think it's been a part of their lives for a very long time. It's important to them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that lies the issue, right? Is we talked a lot about new construction, and we talked about when we build and we erect this new awesome community, and we save the trees, and we do everything we can to make it just super tight, airtight, and we're bringing in fresh air, and we're using the now all of a sudden we start moving residents in, right? And there's LED lights in the apartments, and there's low flow, aerators and flappers, and now all of a sudden the residents, if they're required to replace their own light bulbs, do they go back with an LED, right? Or are they just grabbing a cheap bulb? So I guess that goes into my next question is, how have these initiatives been received by your on-site teams and your residents?
Very, very well. As I was saying, with these surveys, it's obvious that it is important to people. I think they see the benefits of doing these kind of measures, and as most of would be living there if they didn't see the value, and that's kind of what these surveys prove. But we don't get. I've never. I'm sure they're out there. I've not heard like whole tons of complaints about low flow fixtures, about any of the aspects of greenness in these things. I don't know how any of them would necessarily be a negative impact on anybody. As far as changing light bulbs and all that, yeah, I guess somebody can change out light bulbs if that's what they wanted to do. It's their apartment at the time, and we're not going to come and slap their hand if they do that. But I think most people see the value in doing that. I mean, the cool thing with places like Austin or Dallas, where we have these now super blazing hot summers, you think about LED lighting. They put, an old incandescent 100-watt bulb put in 100 watts of heat. Well, we're talking with LED, you're putting in, 6-7 watts of heat. I mean, it really reduces your bills, but it also makes you more comfortable in the house, probably, in the apartment as well. So, these are all, as long as you can sell those kind of measures to people and give them the benefits of what I think everybody understands it and wants them. So, and sees the benefit. Yeah,
I
it's
think
great stuff.
I think the price has changed though. I mean, I remember back. Now I'm going to date myself, right? Back in my day, when you bought an LED light bulb, it might have been $20 for the bulb, whereas now, they've really come down in price and they're a lot more reasonable to
Sure.
purchase. So, and you're
Whole
right.
lot more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
think,
easier to do.
man, I was at the
Well,
grocery
even
store
Nest
the other.
thermostats.
Yeah,
True.
That's like most people. I remember, coming in and showing an apartment, and everyone's like, "Where's the Nest thermostat?" I want the Nest thermostat, and those are the
Yeah.
norms these days, right? Those are normal features. It's not even a perk anymore. That's just where their expectations live.
Well, and that's one of the funny parts about lead standards. As we said, it's been around since 2008. But a lot of these standards, they were out there back in 2008 of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be expensive. This is going to be hard to maintain. A lot of this stuff is kind of picked up as even non-lead buildings certainly incorporate. It's a smart thing to put in LED lighting. You don't have to be maintaining some sort of score or whatever it is. It's just smart. And and that's the point of sustainability, I think, to me, is that LEED gave us that framework to do it, but we're all striving just to build a better building. I mean, why would you not if you can? And it doesn't really add to it really doesn't add to cost that much to do it, if at all. Just to make sure that it's really checking behind subcontractors and making sure that they were, doing what they're supposed to do, making sure air sealing was properly installed is a big part of it, and insulation values are there. And a lot of that is just commissioning that building when it's finished, which is the code is caught up with a lot of this stuff too. A lot of this stuff is codified anyway, so not all of it, but certainly some, which makes it easier for everybody to do this. Yep.
no, and I think that as we get smarter and we get more into ESG, I feel that more and more builders are going to get to the point where it's going to be less fixtures where it's a intermediate base on a light fixture, right? Maybe it's one of those new puck lights, and so it's not a fixture that a resident can easily change out. So now we're able to kind of control the change that anybody changing anything from an LED to an incandescent or a halogen.
Sure.
So
Or a ceiling fan if that's what they wanted. I mean, we know that people will mess with anything they can mess with at times, and that's it's just part of the business. But I 100% agree with you that it's not as expensive as it used to be, and it's just it's almost becoming the norm at this point.
definitely. I like what you talked about with the survey. I think it's important that you can build a property and you can say it's LEED certified and then hand it over to operations, and our maintenance and office teams have to work together and understand what are the LEED components and what sort of things can they change or not change. So are there anything
Sure.
else? Are there any other things that you've done to try to make sure that our maintenance teams know what is contributing to your LEED certification and what your residents are wanting you to maintain?
Sure. And I mean, it's not only maintenance though. Is what we do is there are training modules that every employee on a lead property has to go through, has to sit through. And it's really learning about the features and benefits of those, most of those things I listed on the list a few minutes ago. But it's one thing for maintenance to understand that, which we do want them to understand how the machines work and how to repair ventilation systems and all this stuff. That's very important, and that's not necessarily what we're talking to the leasing agents about. But getting everybody on the same page, speaking the same language, is just so important because, as Sarah was saying, we got leasing agents. That's one of the big deals, is to make sure that they are out there, telling new residents who they're walking through the property, hey, this is what we're doing with LEED certification. These are the features and benefits and how they'll affect you. Well, if that doesn't translate over to what maintenance is doing, then it's all lost. So everybody's got to be in that same boat and pulling on the same oars and getting in the same direction, because if we're selling this up front and it's important to people's health and it's important to people's the well-being of that's why they rent it there, we better do a pretty good job of keeping that stuff moving in the right direction. We really can't shortcut with it. And we understand that. And I think that we've been doing this so long that I think that most people at AMLE who work here, they have the same mindset. You don't get a lot of people walking around kicking the dirt and saying, "Why do we have to do this stuff?" They understand it. That it's really good for people. I mean, it's like low VOC products. We always tell people, if you're not going to, if you wouldn't use those chemicals around your families,
Mm-hmm.
why would you use it around other people's families? And I think that's, people get that. I mean, they're working in the same environments that these people are living, so everybody's in the same boat. It really does work when you get the education portion of it together and everyone gets the same message.
That's perfect. I want to highlight that training. Train your teams, train the people that are at the properties. Man, if you could even put in reoccurring tickets that say, "Go check out the lighting the lighting dimmer switch system in the common area spaces," or
Yep.
working with Sherwin-Williams and making sure that your catalog only includes low VOC or no VOC paint. So then that way, a new maintenance employee that hasn't received the training yet might accidentally buy a paint that's outside the program. So
right, and we do keep tabs on that pretty closely. Like you're saying, I mean, that is part of the package, is just making sure that, of course, people run out to Home Depot and buy stuff. It happens. We try to minimize that. But, I think if people understand that, what we're trying to do, I really do think that people believe in it around here enough that they're not going to step off the path as much as, maybe somebody else would at another property. I mean, again, it goes back to education and understanding the why we are doing these things.
Definitely.
Yeah, the story behind it. From a marketing standpoint, it's crucial, right? I mean, you have a product or service and you have many other competitors for that matter. What is unique about that story? What is compelling about that story? How does that, hit your heartstring and make you choose that over another? And I feel like, that in itself is something that I would be looking for.
Sure. And like you're saying, I mean, you've just got to, I mean, everyone has to believe not only that this is a good way to rent apartments but this is the right thing to do. And that's really what these programs, like LEED or just sustainability in general, is just trying to, move things in the right direction. I think what we all see as the right direction and just give you a path to do it. So, yeah, it's great stuff.
Well, I know that we have different types of listeners. We have listeners that maybe work for large property management companies as well as small property management companies. So, if you were to give any small suggestions, small steps, things that maybe a property management company that's just starting out and trying to get into sustainability and increase their impact, what sort of suggestions or things would you give them?
Sure. This sounds simplistic, but I'm an HVAC guy,
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing out there for everybody, especially in heating dominant climates like Texas, change your filters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to talk about that's really the biggest energy user in an apartment or at a development is going to be HVAC. I mean, it just is for almost all cases. The simplest thing in the world, if you have a dirty filter in there, it's going to use, I mean, if it's super dirty, you're probably using 10% more energy to heat or cool that, whatever you're heating and cooling. So just change your filters on a regular basis. And that's not not a hand slap on people like you need it, but it just makes sense. If you're doing it once a year, it's probably not enough. You need to tuck in there every now and then and just change them. We do that in our own homes when they get dirty, I hope. I mean, they just don't work well when you have dirty filters. That's an easy way. And then the other one is to measure, get some metrics in place. That's the big deal. It's kind of like Energy Star pushes us down that path, but you can do it just by recording on a spreadsheet or whatever you're doing your energy bills. And then you look at those over time and you can really, if you're seeing your energy ticking up, dive into it. Try to figure out what's going on. I mean, you can sometimes just explain it that it's hotter weather this summer than last summer. Yeah, you can do that, but a lot of times, you can poke around and say that just doesn't look right, and maybe you have a makeup air unit on the roof that is just not doing the right thing and using way too much energy, or it's dirty, or you haven't changed your filters over the course of the year or whatever it is. But if you don't measure that stuff, you really don't know how to correct anything either. So that's two biggest things: change your filters and look at your energy metrics. I think that's perfect.
And for maintenance and office employees, just walking the property during the day, just walk the property, take a look around, see what's going on. Do you have wall packs on in the middle of the day? Do you have pole lights on? Do you have leaks from backflow devices, or do you have anything coming out of an electrical room that water or anything? So those are all key things that you can be able to impact very quickly and be able to save on electricity and water and be able to help your bills out as well. So
absolutely. No, that's true. I mean, walking properties you don't have to know. That's what I always tell people. You don't have to know about every piece of how something works, where just use your ears and your eyes. I mean, if you walk enough and you hear something different than you heard yesterday or the day before, and that machine doesn't sound right, do something about it. Check into it. Get the contractor out there to look at it. But I mean, if you do that enough, like you're saying, if you do that on a regular basis and get in the habit of doing that, you will just notice changes. That's all you're looking at. Just like looking at your energy bills, you're looking for changes in the way things sound or look, or just operation in general, and then fix it.
yeah,
It's pretty simple stuff when it boils down to it.
And that's the whole purpose of our podcast conversations, is how teaching our office teams how to speak maintenance, teaching our maintenance teams, what to be looking for. I mean, it's not just a job that our maintenance teams need to perform. It's something that as a leasing consultant is walking around the community, taking somebody on a tour. Are the plants around the condensing units, are they starting to encroach, and we're starting to not get enough ventilation to our unit so we can get the heat out of the Freon, right? Now all of a sudden that can impact it as well. It's
sure.
looking around
it's all
and
that
making
stuff.
sure. Yeah, it's fun stuff. And I love walking properties.
It really is. I do. It is. I really do think it's the most valuable thing. We have building automation systems that we can stare at a screen all day long to see how something's working. No, that's good stuff, but you also need to go out and just put your ear to something every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Well,
great.
Sarah, do you have any other questions, or
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first one, knowing that it's budget season for most of the properties for 2025, if you could choose 3 items, and maybe this is information from the surveys, maybe this is through your experience, what would you recommend going back to maybe some of those smaller properties or ones that this is something that they're striving for? What would you budget for? What are the 3 changes? You mentioned air filters, so that would probably, budget for more air filters. But what would some of the other items be? I'm curious.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to HVAC as well. Again, because it's one of the biggest energy users out there, and it also affects indoor air quality for people in apartments. But as I said, filters are big things. But making sure your outdoor coils are clean are a huge one as well. And you can budget if you don't have time to do that. I push. It doesn't always happen, but if we need an outside contractor to come out and spend a couple days doing that, it's worth it. I mean, I think it makes machines last. I mean, a lot of this stuff makes stuff last longer too. So you talk about a bottom line, better maintenance, cleaning out, coils, changing filters on HVAC systems. It makes them last. I mean, they don't die in 8 years. They might go 15 years. So there's that other component to it as well. But I'm trying to think what else. I mean, probably LED is another huge one. I mean, you can really get a lot of mileage out of changing over LED light. Especially garages, corridors, stuff that you can easily get to. It affects the bottom line, and it lowers energy bills, and it lowers the heat load in these buildings. So I think that would be it. Easy enough.
With the new Freon laws coming into play and the cost of Freon going through the roof, I mean, what are your thoughts on during PMs leak checking, like having a leak sniffer and maybe trying to identify little leaks that we can be able to repair?
Sure, I think that makes a big difference. It does, especially if you see a droop in performance. To certainly dive into that. Another easy one. I thought of another easy one to do. It's always HVAC because that's what But I mean, you talk about leaks.
Uh-huh.
Check the units up on your roof and see if they have the caps on the Schrader connections. You know what? Most places I walk when I'm on acquisition, they're all gone because they're easier just to take off. You know how many leaks happen? I mean, yes, leaks happen out of indoor coils. They happen out of line sets rarely. They will happen out of those Schrader valves, you know. So just go out and buy a bag of caps and have someone go put them on. You'll save a lot of money doing it. I mean,
That is a very cheap fix.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. I remember we would have, we had a resident app that we could poll our residents. We could, send all kinds of messages. It was a gamified resident app experience. But I'd be curious, for communities or companies other than AMLI who have an incredible survey system. But I think that would be a cool start is to poll your residents, when it comes to capital projects and so forth, and in that budget planning phase on what's important to them from a green standpoint. And I'd be curious, just to get the direct feedback from residents from that standpoint and let them weigh in and be able to, prioritize maybe what could be accomplished or get a game plan for future years.
Sure. If you get somebody to renew their lease because you did something that they, saw as beneficial to health or to energy savings or whatever that is, and it's a good thing to do, certainly that's worth exploring, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, Jake,
So I have a question.
oh yeah, go Sarah.
What do y'all think? I've been seeing in the news that there's communities that are going all solar powered. So is that like a new thing? Is that wild? What are your thoughts on the solar powered communities?
You know what? I'm certain it's coming at some point. We actually do have solar arrays at 4 properties in Dallas that pretty much run the common areas and corridors. So I mean, it does everything except resident space, at least during the day. It takes a lot of cells right now to provide that much power. I think you would have to. That's the other cool thing. If you do solar, anything you can do to reduce your power load, means that solar can take care of more stuff. So I think as panels get better and we get better at energy efficiency, measures that we're doing as far as building buildings, maintaining buildings, and then buying better equipment that can operate at low power, we're certainly going to see more of that. I hope we do. I think it's cool.
I know we will. I mean, I was looking into solar panels for the top of our carports in Arizona, and turning carports into solar panel farms pretty much. But then it just became cost prohibitive because the cost to install them and to restructure the carports, and then how much electricity are we saving? That's
Sure.
The ROI was what kind of
always that thing to weigh though. First cost versus how. Yeah. But yes, I think it's going to be a bigger thing. There's no doubt. It's coming.
Yep. Sarah, do you got any other questions? You got some great questions today. Well, Jake, thank you so much for joining us. This was really informative, and I really appreciate you sharing what you have been doing at AMLI with your teams, and it's very impressive how you're in this platform where you can be able to work with new construction and work with our maintenance teams and be able to impact the future of the company. So thank you so much for
Very
sharing.
good. Well, thank you guys for having us on. Appreciate it.
I hope to get you out again for another chat soon. So if anyone listening is interested in any of our previous conversations, you can find us on the go as a podcast, wherever you download your podcasts, as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn. So it's been pretty neat to be able to watch old episodes and to be able to reminisce about our conversation. So thank you, Sarah, for your time today and helping get this going. And Becca, we missed you, and we look forward to getting you back on the next episode. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks.